great power comes great responsibility.
It's going to be an extremely tough fight, everyone. I don't know if we're going to make it out alive. As I was saying, super tough fight. I'm happy we made it through. So let's talk about the updated Detonate Dead build. This build absolutely deletes bosses. We're talking easy tier 15 and above kills and easy clears for Trials of Chaos with the level 80 keys. It's not like super fast when it comes to clears, but it is very effective when it comes to like clearing big areas of enemies with one explosion. Huge radius, so you're going to be taking out hordes of enemies pretty easily. On top of that, the survivability is very good, and this makes it extremely easy to farm, for example, the Trials of Chaos. I got a separate video about that farm in the description. Make sure to check it out. I've been making a lot of Exalted and Divines from those runs. If you guys do enjoy this video, and only if you do, slap a like, sub to the channel. I got more content on the way for PoE 2. And now let's get right into it. The first thing we're going to take a look at here is going to be our gems. Obviously, Detonate Dead is going to be the first thing we're going to take a look at. So what you want to know is that you can have it as low as level 7 because it's not going to drain a lot of your mana. This is not going to affect your damage as well. So if you do have a level 7 gem, go for it. For the support gems, Corpse Conservation, Spell Echo, then we have Ambush here. This one is very important because this is going to give you the ability to hit those one shots on bosses and in general like huge numbers when it comes to damage consistently. Then we have Minion Pact, and finally Magnified Effect. This is going to be like your clear setup, and we're going to just switch up one gem when you move into a boss area. That's going to be considered casting instead of Magnified Effect. And the cool thing is the way we have it built is that even when we do that, the radius still stays really big. You see that, right? That is very nice, and that makes it easier to hit those bosses with your minions, especially if it's a boss that's kind of moving around a lot. Then we have the Skeletal Brutes. These are going to be where your damage is coming from. This is currently at level 29 thanks to all of our plus levels to minions on our gear, which we are going to break down the gear here in a little bit. For support gems, it's going to be Meat Shield, Minion Mastery, and Physical Mastery. You know, the ones that you usually want to use on the brutes just to make them as powerful as possible. We are going to be running 4 brutes, by the way, and 2 clerics. So let's take a look at the clerics now. We're going to be running Arcane Tempo, Last Gasp to keep him alive a little bit more when needed, and then finally Ingenuity, right? Supported skills have 30% increased cooldown recovery rate. And one of our biggest sources of damage is going to be coming from Soul Offering. And on this one, once again, nothing crazy. We're going to go for Persistence just to increase the time and the duration of the buff. Then we're going to run Font of Blood and Ablation as well. 30% increased effect of offerings. Supported skills sacrifice 15% of life on use. And then finally, the one and only Sacrifice. This is what just puts all of this build together. For all the people that don't know, essentially what this does is it counts your minions as corpses, guys. And that's how we're able to consistently keep the explosions going and have that damage at all times. So this is something you're going to need no matter what. This will cost you 60 spirit as well. And on the Sacrifice, we're going to be running Cannibalism and then Clarity for some better mana regen. But honestly, with this build, because we're running the Detonate Dead at a very low level gem, mana is just not an issue. If you take a look at the mana bar, it barely even moves. Actually, it doesn't move at all. So you don't have to worry about that at all. Another thing that you can use is Vulnerability. Hits against cursed enemies ignore 6,465 armor. So this comes in handy when you're fighting against like single target enemies mostly, because all the rest, including rares, you're going to be one-shotting even with your clear setup without switching out the support gem on Detonate Dead. That's how good this is. I currently don't have any support gems in here, but if you guys got any ideas, let me know. And finally, Grim, because we are going to overflow our shield. We can get around 3,300 shield and around 4,600 HP as well with our overall build. You're going to see all of the details in the passive skill tree. But yeah, those are the gems. Now, another thing that my chat was telling me was Mana Tempest. However, even when I don't use this, right, I one-tap the bosses in the trials anyway. So they get one-tapped easily. So I don't exactly know if this is necessary. When I put this on, I still one tap the bosses on like higher tiers as well. And when I don't have it, I still one tap them anyway, right? So if you're kind of struggling with having too many things to use at the same time and you're getting overwhelmed, maybe you're a new player, you're just creating this build, you don't have to necessarily use it. You're still going to be doing massive damage. However, if you're okay with that, slap this on. And if you do, you will also be running inspiration with this. Supported skills have 40% less cost. This is an absolute no-brainer with this skill because this destroys your mana, right? Like it just drains your mana like crazy. I'm actually going to show you that. Like you will see that it starts draining the mana, and just look at that. As it's like active, it just disappears, right? Like, so that is something that you want to keep in mind. Now, another thing I want you guys to know is that we have upgraded the quality of Detonate Dead as well. You will see right here that the explosion radius has been increased. So I tried to do my best in order to have the radius as big as possible when it comes to clearing, because I just wanted to clear huge areas of enemies. Now let's break down the passive skill tree. We're going to start off with the Ascension, and we're also going to be having different setups for the weapon sets. For the Ascension, we're going to go Vitality Siphon, then Gore Spike, and Sunder the Flash for more base critical hit chance for spells. And obviously, Gore Spike will increase our damage tremendously, which helps us to one-shot those bosses and deal massive damage in general. For the rest, you're going to pick up minion life as much as possible. Wherever you see it, you always go for it. And never skip any of these, because these are tied to our brute HP, and that is essentially where our damage comes from. We are almost at 55,000 HP as mentioned. You're always gonna pick the minion life up. As you can see right here, there's another big node over here. We also have a few that we picked up on the left side as well, and 2 up here. Also keep in mind, one of the most important things is your jewels. Each jewel can come with up to 15% increase of minion HP. This will boost your damage tremendously. Obviously, the more jewels you have, the better. Now, this one is definitely not a perfect jewel, but it has 15% increased minion life, and that is precisely what I'm looking for. Now, we're also picking up as much crit chance from these nodes right here, and crit damage as well. More crit chance. Very important to pick up meat recycling. 15% chance to not destroy corpses when consuming corpses. This makes it way more consistent for your clears and boss damage as well, because your brutes are not going to keep dying all the time. So with this node tree right here and the corpse conservation on your Detonate Dead, we're already at 50% chance to not destroy your minions, which is perfect. And this is one of the new nodes that I'm using here, and it is an increase in physical damage, right? And then final node says 20% increased critical damage bonus, plus 10 to strength, and 20% increased physical damage on top of all of that, which is really, really good for us. Then on the far left, this is how we get a huge radius to make those clears very consistent, no matter what you're doing. If it's breaches, if it's the Trial of Chaos, this makes a huge difference both for faster clears and survivability, because the explosions are so big that nothing really gets close to you. When I swap to my second weapon set, let's take a look at what gets activated here, right? So we're going to swap to our second weapon set, and then we're going to move the scepter into our main slot as mentioned. And if you go back into the passive skill tree, you see that these nodes got added, which means more physical damage. And we also got these nodes here, right? 20% increased critical damage bonus if you haven't dealt a critical hit recently, 25% increased critical damage bonus. Then we have more critical damage and critical damage once again. So this boosts up our damage even more and takes that burst to the next level with our second weapon set. And that is essentially what you want, because with our second weapon set, we're using the Threaded Light. This is a unique focus that gives us around 350% plus increase with spell damage. Now, the next important thing we need to talk about is the Preemptive Strike. 100% increased critical damage bonus against enemies that are on full life. I have this instilled on my amulet. Now, for all the people that don't know, I'm going to quickly explain how to instill this. You're going to hover over it, press Alt, and you will see which distilled emotions you need. In this case, it's going to be Guilt, Disgust, and Greed. Now, keep in mind, the order matters, so it has to be the exact same. Now, you're going to check out your Delirium drops, and for example, right here, we see Distilled Greed. I'm going to pick this up just to show you guys how to instill. Then once you click on this, you will see that the slots open up. You're going to put your amulet in the main slot, and then once again in the same order, you are going to slot in the distilled emotions that you need for that specific node, and then you're just gonna press instill and you're good to go. The perk will be added to your amulet. But that's not the only thing that we're going for here, right? We are going for spirit at all times. Currently, I have 342 spirit. For the wand, we're going to be using the unique one. This gives us an extra 25% chance to not destroy corpses. And then for the helmet, we are using this beauty right here. 89% increased energy shield, 208 maximum life, and +2 level of all minion skills. And that right there is one of the most important things for this build, because we have +2 level of all minion skills on our helmet, on our amulet, and then we have +4 on our scepter. Now, the scepter and the helmet aren't like the best in the world, but they get the job done, as you saw when it comes to damage, right? We also have minions have 35% increased maximum life and 51% increased spirit on our scepter. Now, if you're able to get higher numbers for all these things, obviously the better it is, and the stronger your build is going to be, and the damage is going to be higher. Currently, I'm farming a lot to get enough divines to get even more cracked items, which is kind of exciting. But yeah, overall, those are going to be the items. Now, even though on the helmet we don't have high cold resistance, you will see that on our gear we still manage to cap our resistances. It's more than enough. You just got to take a look at some of the pieces and kind of math it out and figure it out how you get to like the cap numbers. But yeah, it's definitely possible in my case. Now I'm going to hover over some of the other pieces. You guys can take a look, but it's the normal stuff, right? Like increased energy shield, some HP and resistances. I did try to go for some rarity as well, and currently my character is around 108% rarity, which is fine at the moment. I will try to increase that with time as well. Here is the belt. Now I'm going to show you guys the rings as well. However, I will be swapping out these rings as soon as I can and probably try to get something that is much stronger that could probably help my damage as well. And last but not least, let's talk about the focus that I got from the trial boss, from the trial master, which is the final boss of the trial of chaos. What I do is I switch to this focus and then move my scepter into the slot right here. I have all my minions, but the cool thing is, thanks to this focus, I get 11% increased spell damage per 10 spirit. So this is our regular setting when we're clearing. Then let's say when I get to a boss, I swap to this, move the scepter over here, and then I use considered casting instead of magnified effect. Boom, just like that. And you're good to go. You're fighting the boss, absolutely deleting them. Now, when it comes to one-shotting bosses in general, when you're going to be playing Trials of Chaos, the 3 bosses within the Trials, they get one-shot very consistently. When it comes to mapping, you're mostly going to be one-shotting bosses, but sometimes, if it so happens that one of your maps has like some crazy modifiers, their HP is increased tremendously, or they have a huge shield. For example, this boss right here had a full shield. And by the way, this is a tier 16 map right here. And even though they have that shield, like, you're still going to be dealing insane damage. And if there's no crazy HP modifier, you're going to be one-shotting bosses on very high tiers as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the build. I really hope you guys enjoy this build as much as I do. And if you guys enjoy playing Blood Mage, trust me, you will love this one as well. As always, stay positive, stay disciplined, and I'll see you all on the next one.